Hey everyone, this is Brian at F Studios, my home studio away from home, and this video is for the AW crew on Facebook, and of course anybody else who uses these machines. Today this video is going to be about discussing ZuluSCSI and how you can use it for the AW4416. ZuluSCSI is a little PC or computer PCB SCSI drive emulator card, similar to an older known one called SCSI to SD, that uses SD chips with drive image files to emulate hard drives, CD-ROMs, MO disks, anything that was hooked up via a SCSI connection. And you can use them in place of, like, computer hard drives and old computers that use SCSI drives. You can use them in place of their CD-ROM drives. You could use them to be able to continue to utilize old audio samplers and be able to transfer WAV files back and forth. If you no longer have a regular SCSI device that you could do that with, you got a more modern computer, and you just create a virtual drive, of course, transfer the WAV files on the virtual drive, put that on the SCSI card, this ZuluSCSI card, and install that into your machine, and then it'll be able to pick up those programs, those WAV files, things like that, and you can transfer back and forth. Now, for the AW4416, the ZuluSCSI card works as a mass storage device for data backup. Now, that being said, it is not a replacement for the internal hard drive on the AW, and it is not a replacement for AW Miner, created by our own Benny Badman. What it is good for is so that you can create backups of your works in progress, without having to power down the machine and remove the hard drive and install it in your other computers using AW Miner or whatever, then to rip the drive or rip the songs from the drive and store them on your computer. Instead, you could just leave everything hooked up to the AW and just store it and restore from it right there on the machine, which makes it really convenient if you don't have the computer nearby, say like you're doing a remote location recording or something like that, and you don't have all that other gear to tote around with you. Makes it really convenient to just store it on something no larger than this. And you can store up to 1 terabyte of information on one of these. Now, the ZuluSCSI can also be purchased to use standard size SD cards, but my suggestion is you get one which fits the type of chips you already have laying around the house. I had this one, a 256 gigabyte card, that I really wasn't using for anything else, so that's what I got it for. That's how I got mine set up. Now, there's a few different models of the ZuluSCSI card. My suggestion would be to get the one that has the 3.5 inch style pin header, not the 2.5 inch. The 2.5 inch is the one that goes into laptops, things like that. The 3.5 inch is the one that went into desktops and a lot of other machinery that used SCSI drives at the time. It's compatible with plugging into a SCSI CD drive connector. It's compatible with plugging into a regular SCSI 3.5 inch hard drive connector. So what you're looking at, essentially, you're going to want to buy is something like this, if you choose to go this route. This is it. This is the ZuluSCSI card. Now, I have the 2.5 inch card because I didn't know better at the time, but if you get this card and you want to use it on the AW, you got to get a secondary connector that adapts from the one main adapter that we're going to get and this card. You don't want to do that. If you get the 3.5 inch, you could plug that right in here, right into where your CD drive goes. Let's say if your CD's bad, you can't get another one, you can put it right in there and have easy access to where the chip goes. The chip will sit right here. So you just slip it inside, and then you can just pop the chip in and out as often as you want. And you can get it set up to come with a Molex connector. So you can just take power right from the CD drive connector and you're ready to go. Now if you have a tappy CD drive version AW, or you still have a working CD drive like I do in my original SCSI type AW, you could still utilize the SCSI 2 port on the back of the AW. Now for that to work, you're also going to want to buy another adapter. This is your primary adapter right here. This guy, this is your SCSI 2 50-pin D-sub connector. Connects to the back of the connector on the AW and goes to the 50-pin header ribbon style connector. This one here is male to female, and you can pick this up for like $5.80. You can get this for about $40 to $60 depending on what model you want. And then of course, if you want to be able to utilize ribbon cable in between the AW and the SCSI card, you want to get this style connector from the same company, but it's set up to have, I think, male connectors on both sides, not a male to female, it's male to male. Now the chip needs to be at least a minimum of 4 gigabytes, and you can get them up to a terabyte. And I've seen on the website from the manufacturers of the ZuluSCSI card that they've tested over 400 gigabyte chips, and there doesn't seem to be any limitation on the size of what this card can handle, at least on the top end. You're limited to a minimum 4 gigabyte. But the 50-pin connector on the back of the AW does not supply power. It's originally set up to be able to hook up to external hard drives, CD burners, things like that. Those guys would be plugged into their own power source. So this port does not supply power, so you still have to route power to the ZuluSCSI card. You could go through the hassle of getting a Molex splitter and splitting off from the CD drive power supply and finagle your way to run it out to the card. But I found it just much simpler to buy a USB to USB Type B cord, because the ZuluSCSI is set up to be powered also by the USB Type board or Type B cord. I'll show you what that is. It's just a little guy like this, no bigger than that, and it's got a regular USB port on the other end of the cord. You just plug it into your laptop or get a little AC socket adapter that you can plug it into. No big deal. So once you have all these guys, this guy is probably going to cost you maybe around $100. $40 to $60 for the card, less than $6 for the SCSI adapter for the 50-pin SCSI 2 type adapter. Probably costs more in shipping to get this part than it does to actually buy the part. And then your SD chips can run anywhere but between what, $20 to $100 some dollars, depending on what size you get and where you get them from. And then that power USB cable I showed you, you can get them maybe like $7-10. Nothing special, right? But that gives you access to having a lot of storage for data backup and handling. Peace of mind is what I use it for the AW4416. Where to buy ZuluSCSI if you should want it? Well, you can go to ZuluSCSI.com and find the links that will take you to where you need to go. But essentially, if you're in the United States, you can get it from Rabbit Hole Computing, which is the ones who make it. They're out of California. You can get it from SamplerZone.com in Tennessee, and they specialize in music samplers. And you can get it on Amiga on the Lake in what is that, Oswego, New York. If you're in Canada, you can get it from dechromancer.ca or DECromancer. Not sure how they're supposed to pronounce that. United Kingdom, you can get it from Amiga Kit, Cardiff, UK. Germany and the rest of the European Union can get it from Studio Services. And Australia can get it in Juicy Crumb Systems. Those places will have these products. Hopefully, they'll still have them. Now, if we look up Rabbit Hole Computing, it shows you all the stuff we have. You got your own kit, the homebrew kit that you can purchase for just over 42 bucks, where you have to put all the pieces together essentially for yourself. The capacitors, some of the other components like the header, the pin header. You have the ZuluSCSI Compact RP240, and it uses the micro SD card for $49. You have the ZuluSCSI Standard RP240 right here, and it uses the standard size or full size SD memory cards for $59. And then of course, this is the one that I bought right here. This is the ZuluSCSI Laptop RP2040 2.5 inch. And this guy will emulate hard drives or CD-ROMs using micro SD card technology. And of course they got others. The ZuluSCSI version 1.2 solid state, which will emulate drives such as CD-ROMs, hard drives, all this stuff. It also does it with a full-size SD card, and it's $79. You don't want to get the mini RP2040 because this is only for a DB25 pin SCSI card setup. And remember, the AW4416s used a 50 pin setup, type 2. Now these are new, this right here, the ZuluSCSI version 6.4. This is an actual, supposedly a direct descendant of the version 6 SCSI to SD card, and they want $120 for this thing. And you can buy a 10-pack of the compact RP4020 homebrews for $349 if you put them together yourself. So essentially, this is what you got. This compact guy is full size, and of course, the regular RP2040 is full size. A laptop version works, but you have to get an extra adapter, which I suggest you don't bother with. Save you a little bit of money. So yeah, you can get the card for about $49, $59, so $50-60 bucks, and that'll get you started with that. Next, we need the one adapter I was talking about. So if you want to connect the SCSI output of the ZuluSCSI directly to the AW, you can find the adapter at cablesdirect.com. And what you're going to look for is the SCSI IDC female, or the SCSI IDC 50 female to HPD B50 male micro D50 adapter. They are still $5.80 and they have plenty in stock. If you want to be able to utilize a ribbon cable in between, then you instead look for the SCSI IDC 50 male to HPD B50 male adapter, male to male. They're still $5.80, and you can pick them up just as easy. They're in stock. You probably pay more for shipping, like I said. And that will get you hooked up to the back of the AW. Now, let's say you want to have, you have all that in hand. What can you do with it? Well, what are the first steps? The first step is that you're going to have to properly format your SD card. ZuluSCSI requires your SD cards either be formatted in FAT32 or exFAT. Now, when I was doing this, I found that FAT32 is only good up to the 4 gigabyte standards. And ZuluSCSI's minimum is 4 gigs. So if all you get is a 4 gig card, then FAT32 will probably be okay. But if you want a larger card, you're gonna have to go exFAT. And when I was using my own Windows laptop to format it, under disk management, it would only format up to, what was it, like 32 gigs or 64 gigs, somewhere around there. I can't quite remember, it's been a while. So if I wanted to go farther than that, if I wanted to format the whole card, make use of the whole card under the exFAT format program, I had to utilize the command prompt controls in the computer. Later Windows operating systems use the shell. You can also download a third-party app that will let you do that. All this stuff, research yourself, see which ones are going to be the best fit for you if you want to go this route with getting ZuluSCSI. Anyway, format the whole darn chip, and then you have to make drive image files. The ZuluSCSI is set up so that it emulates SCSI drives based on image files, and it will emulate up to 7 at a time. So that means you have to set your drives up under the proper kind of naming convention and format for the card to recognize what's going on, what it's supposed to be. For instance, if you wanted to emulate a hard drive, you have to name the image file HD. If you wanted to emulate the CD-ROM, I think that was the neighbor with the Camaro. Anyway, if you wanted to emulate a CD-ROM, you name the file CD. And of course, after these names, these abbreviations, you have to put a number that designates what the SCSI ID number is. So you would put it in either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. That's your 7 different drives that you can use. And you can mix and match them all you want. Now with the AW so far, I've only been able to get the hard drive emulation to work. The CD drive emulation seems to freeze the machine up, so I'm not too concerned about it. The AW, the purpose of ZuluSCSI with the AW at this point is just for mass storage, so we want to use it as a hard drive anyway, right? So anyway, you format it in your computer and you have it ready. So now you need to create your drive images. You can either get software to do this. You can do this if you're on Windows. You can do it under disk management. If you're running Mac, I believe they have their own utility that does that. Or you can even get the ZuluSCSI card to do it itself for you. Now, as you can see, I already have several drives on my ZuluSCSI card. And you can see they're labeled as HD0, HD1 with an HDA format, HD2, HD4 with a VHD format, and HD5 with a VHD format. Now, I guess I don't know if I should really call it a format, but it's the extension file. And this guy here, HD0, is an image file. HD1, HDA is an HDA file. HD4 is a VHD file. The ZuluSCSI will recognize all of those and more, and it will make emulated hard drives, CD-ROM drives, and so forth out of a number of those. MO drives, all kinds of things, okay? So anyway, if you want to create a drive on this guy here, let's see. You see I skipped 3 because that's the ID number my CD-ROM sits on in the AW. So I can put one more drive on this thing for shits and giggles. And what we'll do is do this. Come down here. I'm going to type in disk manager.
And there's all my disks that I currently have in there. What am I going to do? I am going to create a virtual hard disk. Create virtual drive. I'm just going to put it right on the desktop then. Type in Brian's drive again as the name and do it again. 1 gigabyte. All right. And now we're running. Creating the virtual drive. Yay! All right. It worked. There it is right there, right? But it's still not usable yet. Let's see. We're going to right click on the disk 3 and we're going to initialize this disk. We're going to set it up, use following partition style as MBR, master boot record. And then we're going to simplify, do right click where it says unallocated, then new simple volume, go through the wizard and just let it do its thing. Maximum disk space is 1021 megabytes, minimum is 8, so 1021. Hit next, and we're gonna go ahead and keep it assigned the letter H. Why not? But now here, we are not gonna format it in NTFS. I haven't tried that yet. I don't know if it works, but I do know I can make it work under FAT. I didn't have a good shot at making it working with FAT32, but I can make the drive work with FAT. So pick FAT, quick format, hit next, finish, and now it's done. It's ready to go. What's to do next? We're gonna open back up our SD card, and I'm going to copy this drive onto the SD card. And now it's going to copy the whole 1 gigabyte drive system. All right, so see, we got Brian's drive VHD. We're going to rename that. We're going to name it HD6. Why HD6? Because the ZuluSCSI requires to use the initials HD if you want it to emulate a hard drive. And we're using 6 because I've already got several other drives in here. 0, 1, 2, 4, and 5. So we need 6. Enter. Okay, that's it. Now it's time to set the ZuluSCSI card up to the AW. All right, folks. Now this is pretty easy. We have the ZuluSCSI's connection port that we're going to use right there. It's the SCSI 2 port on the back of the AW4416. And we see this guy right here. Maybe, yep, see, there we go. And we're just going to plug that guy right in. It just plugs in just like that. Pop, it went in. Good to go, right? And then we need to supply power to it, right? Now that's where we get that type B or mini type B USB cord. I already got plugged into the USB output on my laptop, so it's already going to supply power. And it just goes right there. See if we can get a better clear shot of that. Yeah, right there, right that guy. There we go. Of course, I heard my laptop register that I got plugged into. And you see the flash? That means the machine is detecting that it is without an SD chip.
So now it's time to put the SD chip in, right? So we're gonna go ahead and pull this SD chip out of the computer. And we're gonna make sure we do it safely by telling the computer to go ahead and eject this thing. So just like that, safe to remove hardware. Pop this thing out, there we go. And pull the little thing out. All right, here we are, Samsung 256 EVO. And bring it back over to our ZuluSCSI. And we're just gonna slide it in right here. Push it in, locks in place. One little flash from the LED light on the SCSI card indicates that it now has its chip. Now you wanna see it? So here's the regular song menu function on the AW4416. We want to see if we have the disc. Go to File, over here. And let's go ahead and choose Disk Utility, right? What do we got? Well, we have 0. We got a disc 1. We have a disc 2. And disc 3 is the CD burner. Or I should say drive 3. Drive 4 is another hard drive. Drive 5 is another hard drive. I wonder, do I have another internal controller on 6? Because it's now giving me drive 7. Well, let's go to the backup feature. I think that's the smallest they got. Push enter. Of course, it says change media. Why? There we go. Backup is executing. I had to format the system. That's why. You have to format the chip, format the hard drive. So now, as you can see, backing up the data, and while it's backing up the data, the drive flashes as such. Now, want to see if it's there? It's there, the whole thing. Now, this guy has saved me some headache because it's giving me peace of mind in case anything would fail on this AW4416, such as a bad CD-ROM drive or hard drive corruption. I've been able to back up everything onto these chips, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I've already done a previous live video where I was showcasing this, but SCSI Drive 2. There's a lot of information on this, so it takes time for it to load up. You'll see it's just sitting there grinding away, grinding away. There's 64.5 gigabytes of data on drive number 2, okay? Okay, so the SCSI card has been able to allow the AW to detect all the songs saved on the virtual hard drive
And let's just go through here. I think these were all the original song files when they got uploaded to ZuluSCSI's hard drives. And now we're getting into where I've worked on each one, making some edits and adjustments and mix changes.
Hello, my name is Roger Stacy, and I'm retired from the Navy, and I'm here to tell your class about the war. It was 1943, and I had just turned 18.
But all of that is just saved on one of the drives, one of the 64.5 gig hard drives that I created on the ZuluSCSI card. Now, I'm also working for a client, and I'm backing up his stuff on ID number 1. So it's HD1 is the ID. And see, there's very few things on it. It's only a 1 gig drive. So I only have this much work on it. See, battery was dead again. I didn't reset it.
We were all just boys.
And then SCSI drive H0. This is listed on the chip as HD1, or excuse me, HD0. This is the original drive that had all those songs I showed you on SCSI number 2. And I made a copy of this to make SCSI 2. And I named it SCSI 2 afterwards. And then I went back in and reformatted this drive so I can now put on the master ready versions of the songs. I'm still working on them. I'm only halfway through. But I figured I'd put this quick video together so you guys could see how ZuluSCSI works.
Now, we can format these virtual drives on the ZuluSCSI card as standard AW proprietary format, or we can format them in FAT16 and leave them set up similar to how we formatted the virtual drive originally on the computer when we made it. Now, if you set it up like that on the computer and format it in a FAT6 version, you know, just standard FAT version, you can open it up and you can transfer WAV files onto the card, and then you can load them up onto the AW, and the AW will see them. They'll see the WAV files, and you'll be able to pull them onto the machine. You could also, if the AW won't let you send WAV files to that drive, you can then reformat it to the FAT16 format that the AW has on here, and it'll let you then transfer WAV files onto the chip, at which point you can access those WAV files on your PC or your Mac. They will be available, but we can't seem to make it pick up the CFS files from the data backup storage on the proprietary Yamaha format. There's something going on here. The Zulu card, I don't know if the ZuluSCSI card is having something to do with it, or if it's how the AW is sending out its information. But when I try to open up the ZuluSCSI's hard drive and get AW Miner to read a CFS file, it's not there. Data is corrupted, it says, or it says that it's just something, there's something funky about it, right? But it's got no problem picking up WAV files. So I'm considering, at some point after I'm done with this project, to use AW Miner to create a drive image of my internal drive on the AW here. then put that on the ZuluSCSI, and then I will try to use it as a backup drive, and then see if I can put it back onto my laptop and use AW Miner to check it. But in either case, when doing large files, there's no beating AW Miner. AW Miner is still far superior in transfer data speeds than what we get from ZuluSCSI on the AW machine, because the AW machine is limiting how fast it will transfer the data. There's no way around it. But this is very convenient in order to have quick, usable mass storage for data backup and restoration on this machine. If in a case like mine, once I'm completely finished with this project that I'm doing, I will then finalize all the data on the hard drive, and then I will use AW Miner to pull the whole drive off. It'll take, if it's the whole 40 gigabytes on my laptop, it takes almost an hour and a half to pull that off. Transferring all that information onto the ZuluSCSI took several times longer because it's just so slow to do that. But working on a song-by-song basis, easier. And at least for how things are set up with me, it's just easier to use that than to pull the drive out each time just for one song or some changes that were made. So definitely, it's a good peace of mind to have this thing when our systems are getting so old that things are starting to fail. CD-ROMs are starting to fail, hard drives are starting to fail, faders are starting to fail. All this stuff we're finding replacements for and making it usable. Now, the FAT16 format, what could it be really good for? Because like I said, this thing transfers data slower than using AW Miner to transfer WAV files or pull WAV files off of the data that's on the hard drive. Here's a good use for it. For anybody out there who's using the AW in conjunction with electronic music, tech, whatever, dubstep, anything that uses samples, anything you want to loop. The AW here has automated, programmable 8-channel sample pad with 2 banks. You could set up a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte SD chip to act as a sample storage device that you can then put in the back of the AW, and you can just scroll through your samples with whatever you named them as on that particular drive you have set up for that, and find samples to work for whatever you want. It's all right there contained in that little chip just on the back of your AW4416. You could also use it to do some quick transferring. For instance, this album project that I have, all the songs are separate files. The master mix is going to be on the master channel. I'm going to need to bring all that stuff back into another song file and then align all those different songs up. It'll be real easy just to create a WAV drive on the ZuluSCSI and transfer all my master track stereo mixes onto there as waves, and then transfer them all back onto the new song file and align them to where I want them. And then I'll be all set to go. I won't have to actually burn the stuff onto a CD and then transfer back. It'll all just be right there. Save time on the CD-ROM drive. Don't wear these things out if we don't have to. They're hard to come by. But anyway, yeah, for about $100, you can have yourself up to 2 terabytes of mass storage for data backup and restoration on the AW4416 that just sits right there in the back of the machine. Convenient. Doesn't take up much space. It's a small footprint, and it doesn't take a lot to make it work. Anyway, hopefully that's been informative. One last thing to say, I didn't cover it earlier. Now, let's say in a case like we have with my machine right now, where I don't have any room for any more hard drives. If I need to add more drives, I just take those drives that are on this machine or on that ZuluSCSI chip, and I put them in a folder. They can still be on the chip. Just move them to a folder, or make copies to a folder, and then just reformat all those drives that are on the front end, and leave them labeled what they work as: HD0, HD1, HD2, HD3, 4, 5, and in my case it says 7, not 6. And I can't use 3, sorry, forgot about that. I got a CD-ROM drive in there. And then if I need to go back and use those other files again, I just swap them. Take the one that was HD0, swap it out with the other one that was originally HD0. And I can, when they're in the folder, I can name them whatever I want so I can remember what they were. Brian's Fantastic Fun, whatever. Brian's recordings, this and that. And then put them back onto the main portion, the root directory of the chip drive, and just relabel it back to HD0. And then the AW will continue to pick it up. Anyway, that's how this thing works. It's pretty simple, but there's not a lot of information out there that tells you how to make it work. So for me, it's been kind of touch and go, kind of figure out how to make things actually operate in this thing. So if I do find out more, I'll let people know. Like if I find out a way to actually make this thing compatible with AW Miner, I'll let everybody know. Outside of that, I think I've got a pretty good use for it. Backing up all the data as regular AW data, so I can get back to it anytime I need to, at any point. Or creating a large wave drive where I can store everything that I use for samples. And more I'm getting more and more stuff. Because my songs, I do use things where I incorporate samples. Not so much like drums or whatever, but that could be done, because you could put drums in this thing and create a performance on the pads. But I like to use samples like a vibra slap, and claps, and screams, and wind, and whatever. The things that are, that's what I'm using so far for this album project. And I can now store all these things back on that chip and not take up a whole bunch of space, just something as big as the tip of your finger there. And get access to them whenever I want for another project if I choose to use them. I've used the vibra slap now a couple times. My song Last Train to India has a vibra slap. And I have a vibra slap in, I think it's Children of the Night. I also have some other sounds in there from the samples where it's like you're on a big stage and you got a big staff and you're pounding it down right in rhythm with the drums and the rhythm section. It just adds more tone, more character, and build up in the section of the song that I'm using it on. And hopefully you guys will be able to hear that here in the coming months. So anyway, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you can find it useful. Any questions I can try to answer for you as best I can. There's also a lot of people online on what is it, GitHub or something like that, where all the data for this thing is being put, like updated bin files for the firmware, things like that. So if you think this is for you, excellent. It's a viable solution for hard drive data backup without having to continuously remove your drive. Again, it is not a replacement for AW Miner. It is not a replacement for the internal hard drive, but it can be a replacement for the CD-ROM drive. You guys have a good night.